Inflation seems to be easing further. What, in your view, is driving this moderation, and does it create any room for the MPC to consider rate cuts?
Very good question, Sonal. We can see the chart on inflation, and the inflation data has plunged so sharply, as you can see on the left-hand side, that it's almost reached the zero line. Now, there are multiple reasons for this. First of all, there's been a sharp decline in food prices, and that has really, contributed significantly. But remember, many prices have also been cut for goods starting from September, when many manufacturers started to cut their prices ahead of the GST rate cut. And then, of course, in October, GST itself caused many prices to come down. So, as a result of all of these cyclical or in some cases one-off elements, point-to-point inflation on a year-on-year basis has dropped to 0.25%. On the right side, you can see core CPI. And this time, in fact, we've had to do two core inflations, because one is the traditional core inflation and the other is the core X gold. And if you look at the orange line, that's core inflation. So that still seems slightly elevated at 4%. But remember, gold prices also feed into inflation, and gold and silver are up very strongly over the past 1 year, almost 50 to 60%. When you strip that out, what you see is that core inflation is running at a very comfortable 3%. Now, of course, you could argue that does core really matter, because you've excluded food, you've excluded fuel, and now you've also excluded precious commodities. But it just shows you a trend, which is to say that there is still core inflation. Don't go purely by the CPI inflation, but even on core inflation, the economy looks in fairly good shape. And I would say without doubt that this print of inflation certainly will cause the RBI, and more importantly, the MPC, to think much harder about its policy action in December.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.